Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business.
Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and Ross is out today. He's our creative director, my normal co-host. He'll be back soon. But we are the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Duncan Alney of Firebelly, Stephen DeZordo of Deckhand, and Lizzie Mentis of Here's Waldo. We are forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast and are always looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is always brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists with a mastery of visual storytelling. Our studio makes unforgettable animation and graphic illustration infused with ideas that put money in your pocket. We best serve marketers and brands seeking to engage nerdy audiences, and some of our favorite clients include Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign. All right. So with us today, we have Katie DeMatteis. Here we go. Katie DeMatteis.
Yeah.
Nailed it. First try. Not at all. All right. Katie is a content marketing leader with a deep-rooted passion for content creation, brand strategy, and writing. Her career journey across gaming, cybersecurity, and B2B tech is highlighted by her ability to craft compelling narratives, drive content strategy, and produce writings that not only engage, but also connect on a personal level with audiences. Her work is characterized by a balanced integration of creativity and analytics, allowing her to translate insights into executable, data-oriented content strategies. Let's go. Everybody needs that. And if you don't need it, then you're lying. Like, you already have it. That's the only reason you don't need it, right? Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katie. I know we've worked together in the past, and we're pretty good buddies at this point. So really appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us. I can't wait to pick your brain a little bit and share some of your insights and wisdom with our audience.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is fun. So, all right. So before we jump into today's topic, we want our audience to get to know you a little bit. So tell us how long you've been in your industry and the project you're most proud of so far.
Oh, good Lord. So I have been doing content marketing brand type things for about 11-ish years. I'd say content marketing specifically as my core focus, it's been about 8 or 9 of those years. Actually started out doing language strategy. That was my first job that I had, which was super interesting and very much translatable to content marketing and to brand, but not a one-to-one. And the project that I'm most proud of, there's a couple things. I think because I've worked in different industries, it's kind of hard to compare them because, like, for example, when I worked at Okta, which is a identity and access management security company, essentially, I got put in charge of building out our gaming vertical, which was super cool because, one, it's a big tech company, so I had a bunch of budget, and two, it's a vertical that I'm super, super passionate about. So we were able to create a video game, which was part of our content marketing plan, which educated developers, that was my target audience, about developer security and like credential storing and all that kind of stuff, while also being super funny and super tongue-in-cheek. And it was like a sim game. I got to go to PAX West and do some really cool live streams. So that was just like kind of like a whole initiative that was really, really fun and, kind of scratched all the itches. And I also had the budget to do some really cool shit.
Love that.
But then I also really I've had a couple different clients over the last couple of years who are super, super, super early stage startups, like pre-funding, like basically just kind of like getting an idea off the ground and working with them. Specifically right now, I'm working with a company that's going to be like nutrition supplements for tailored to like dancers and creatives and not necessarily like to bodybuilders. So being able to help them figure out what that brand looks like, what that narrative is going to be, what that messaging is going to be, that is also one of my favorite things to do. And I like to see as those companies grow and kind of see how those brands evolve after that like early stage thing.
That's amazing. I can only imagine the type of campaigns and ideas that your brain is whipping up for nutritional supplements for creatives' brains. Like,
It's super cool and it's super interesting. And I obviously like can't talk a ton about it because they haven't launched yet. But
Sure.
like it's, I mean, bodybuilders are the people that you think of targeting supplements to, right? Like you don't think that dancers or, performers or even people who just like to hike could probably use, like a creatine supplement or a protein supplement. So it's super cool, really interesting target audience. And they should be launching soon. So I don't know if I can say the name, but if I can, I will message it to you later and you can put it in the notes.
Cool. Sounds great. Awesome. Well, like I love the passion and kind of curiosity and enthusiasm that you kind of bring to everything that you work on. We had a mutual client at one point that was really fun that we did some pretty successful things with that felt really good, right? So, and that's how we got to know each other. And I was like, man, it'd be fun to interview Katie. So here we are, Katie. I think, after kind of doing our little pre-show, I think talking about creative content strategies with you, I think would bring a lot of value and something we really haven't dove into too much in our 45 plus episodes. I keep messing up my numbers. It's over 45. I think it's like 48, might be 47. Who knows? So like when you take on a project, right? Like you consider yourself a marketer, obviously, and just from your intro, like you'd like to marry the data and the great information with really good narrative and storytelling, which is why we jive together so well as companies when we work, right? Because that's exactly the type of place we like to operate from, right? You focus more on the words and the strategy. We focus on the strategy and the visuals, right? So it's like there's a lot of nice overlap there. But where does your process start when you bring something in? Like what's the step one?
God, I mean, it depends on where we're starting from, right? If I'm working with a bigger company, there usually are systems that are in place, whether they are good or need work. If I'm starting a new role in a couple weeks as a director of content at a larger SaaS company. So like my approach there is going to be doing a content audit. It's going to be, chatting to people across the different teams that also work with content. So that's going to be product, that's going to be demand gen, that's going to be brand, campaigns, maybe customer marketing, and really kind of understanding like what they've been doing for content, which in the case of what I'm walking into, like there hasn't been a lot of strategy, but there has been a lot of content created. And then it's looking and saying, okay, how can we optimize this? How do we maybe make less content that is more focused? And figuring out and aligning priorities and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about a smaller company who maybe doesn't have a content strategy. That's going to be looking at the sort of the same things, right? Like what are the priorities? What are you looking to achieve? Are you trying to generate leads? Are you trying to grow your brand awareness? Are you trying to, engage a specific community? Because all of those require different types of content. I'm sure you have talked about this in the past, but you've got like the funnel, right? You've got the top of funnel content, mid funnel content, bottom funnel content. So like some places really, really need that top of funnel brand awareness piece. And depending on what they're selling or like what their conversion sort of system looks like, it's more important that their name gets out there than necessarily that they're getting people like in contact with sales reps. The other side of things, you might have people or businesses that are not really going for like we want to have a recognizable brand. Maybe we sell something that's super needed, like, I don't know, Staples. That's not obviously a great example, but something that people are going to buy regardless.
Right.
But it's got that bottom of funnel, like here is like product info. Here is why you should purchase us over Staples brand, Staples, whatever it is. Really understanding like what those needs are, making sure that you have all of the basic content there before you start getting creative. Because I think you need to make sure that you have a funnel journey that covers the basics, that gives all of the information that like your general buyer could potentially need across the funnel. And then you can start being like, all right, I want to do some really cool out-of-pocket shit and kind of like test and iterate and see like, what if we do an interactive video game? What if we, I did a choose your own adventure thing once. Like there's lots of different really fun, creative content ideas that you can start to build out, but you have to have that foundation of like, for not everyone, right? But like we've got a blog where we put out X amount of pieces of content a week. We have all that product focused content at the bottom of the funnel. We have some of those like mid funnel education pieces that are going to be evergreen. And until you have that, I would actually say don't go too crazy and try too much other shit, because you want to make sure, and every industry is different, right? Like I'm talking kind of B2B right now and I'm giving those basics, but like make sure that you have that foundation and then start doing the cool shit.
Right. Yeah. So the first step is very much, where are we? Like, second step is, where do we need to be going? And step 3 is, what do we need to get there? Right. Like, okay. Yeah. It's interesting, no matter the field, right? There's sort of, especially in any type of consulting and planning, and that's basically the big things, right? Like you're trying to just take a step back before we get into applying, like, oh, we can make a super cool thing here. Like, why are we doing this? Where is it going? What's A to B? Like that all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So cool. Tell me about a time where, like, you mentioned that video game. That was a really cool thing. That was a very cool brand activation and way to deliver some information in a very unique way, right? Like, instead of like, here's a PDF and read all this shit, we expect you to know it. Like, jump in here and enjoy this experience. We're going to take you on a little narrative and help you understand why it is you should be doing this type of data security thing, because we're going to put you in a scenario where you have to make this decision, I assume, right? Like, it makes perfect sense.
There are also like little like in-game quizzes that you could like earn in-game currency if you got the answers right. So it like behooved you to sort of remember and to learn. It's, a little like jumpstarty when you think about it, just like Jumpstart for adults. I don't know if you ever played those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a 12-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they still make them? I feel like
so.
Fair, honestly. They're great games. I cannot fault them for continuing. But, it's like a kind of thing where it's like you don't realize you're learning because you're like, this game is fun. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, but I did learn about biomes, or I learned about whatever the heck else it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Was there any other, is there other scenarios of really cool brand activations you can think of off the top of your head, or different kind of unique approaches to solving a problem that, are definitely a little more out of the box?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I feel like there's a lot of examples, and then also, here's one. I mean, I mentioned the Choose Your Own Adventure thing, right? Like, we were doing some brand awareness campaigns and sort of like thought leadership campaigns when I was at Carbon Black, which is also a cybersecurity company. They did endpoint detection and response. They got acquired by VMware, and then VMware got acquired by Broadcom, and now I don't think that they really exist anymore. But
high-end capitalism.
Yeah,
crazy shit. People buying everybody. We want those contracts. We're buying the whole company.
Yeah. But so they had this advisor, I'm sure I can say his name, Eric O'Neill. He's known for basically his boss. He was in the FBI, and his boss was a Russian mole. And he did the covert ops thing of exposing his superior in the FBI as being a plant from Russia. They made a movie about him in the 90s or 2000s.
Okay.
He was sort of like our celebrity person that we had that would come talk about Carbon Black. And he was doing, I think he was doing a webinar or some shit. I don't know. He was doing something with us. And we needed to do promo content. And so instead of just we did some blogs about his life, but instead of just, writing up an ebook, we designed and created a Choose Your Own Adventure game where you got to play as him as you're going through your life and choosing what to do. And there were scenarios where your boss would catch you and you would fail your mission. And I had to write out all of those decisioning trees, which was, I knew it was going to be hard, but was so much harder than I was even anticipating, because you have to make it long enough that people want to replay it.
Right.
So you have to have just so many options of the ways that things can go, and then trying to figure out okay, well, let's make all of these go here. But it was really, really fun and really cool. And we got to use that for the brand activation as opposed to, just a white paper or an ebook or a couple blogs. Yeah, super, super sick.
Yeah. So something in that space is it's deep customer engagement, right? Ross and I talk about this all the time. People don't want to be advertised to. People that are let's call it anybody that's lived through this digital evolution, right? Anybody, right?
Right.
Especially if you're born into it, you're just sick of being promoted to in all these spaces. So the content that you're consuming as an ad or marketing needs to really fit in the space of where you're consuming it, right? So it needs to feel like part of the same experience. If I'm listening to music, like there should be a nice beat on this, whatever ad that comes in, it should feel like it jives into the space. Otherwise, it's like, I'm just going to mute it, or I'm going to skip it, or I'm going to do whatever I can do to not consume it, right? So yeah, I love this idea of deeply engaging someone into something like a game or some sort of different experience. So it is at least, it's not like, hey, we've got this thing, buy our shit, it's the best. Like that doesn't work. I
feel like, and this is something that I was talking about recently, but like Lego does such a good job of that.
I know.
The thing that they did recently with the lights in the sky, where they had kids design essentially like, I don't know if they're sort of like alien Lego things that they then basically projected into the sky above New York, and it was to promo their new Alien release. And I was like, this is the coolest marketing shit I have ever seen in my life.
Lego is next level on everything. Talk about, they literally came up on the last podcast. We brought up Lego for one reason or another. Probably at least 20% of our podcast, right? Their licensing deals, like the way that they can bring anything into their universe and make it cute and fun and accessible and family friendly. Doesn't even really matter like what it was beforehand. It becomes this family friendly thing within Lego. And wow, yeah, the creativity and marketing ideas that they've just continued to. I mean, the movies they make are great. Like it's probably one of the best brands on the planet, I think.
If not the best. It's hard for me to think of other brands, especially consumer brands that could compete.
For sure. I mean, they should have been Minecraft, right? Like they missed the beat on that. That's like the only thing I can think of, right? Like if you got this hot, giant, monstrous company doing amazing stuff. They came up with Lego Worlds, which was really good. And if they had to hit the market before Minecraft, they could have cornered that whole space.
My complaint about Lego, this is not related to marketing at all, but Legoland should have more rides for adults. Because I would get a season pass to Legoland if they had like real roller coasters.
Oh, where's Legoland?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I remember we looked into it because my husband and I love roller coasters. And they were all kiddie rides. And we were like, well, we're not going to go now. That's lame.
They're all in New York. Yeah, that sounds like a no-get.
Not the Discovery Center, though. Legoland Amusement Park.
Okay.
Florida?
Where?
Potentially it's Florida.
Oh, interesting. I mean, so, there's lots of great amusement parks in Florida. We've got a couple good ones here, too, roller coasters. Let me know when you guys want to drive down and go to Busch Gardens. It'll be fun. I got season passes every year. It's not far, so.
All right. Not to fully derail the conversation.
Yeah. No, yeah. So anyways, Lego does amazing work. That's a great brand activation. And there's so much cool technology now. I'm really excited to see what type of, like, one of my buddies owns an agency, and I'll probably have him on the podcast, where they made some brand activation for the Boston Marathon, right? So everyone ran through the Boston Marathon, and they had technology scanning the people's numbers as they ran through and cut everybody as they're running through these key points on the race, like these really specific parts, like, hey, here's you. And then, so basically by the end of the race, they had 5 or 6 key points that were then automatically cut into a video for you because it's scanned that your numbers hit these spots. And it's like, here's your journey on the race. Mile marker 5, mile marker 20. And you're just like, you see yourself like slowly dying, right? Like, or whatever it is, right? But I just thought that was really cool and an interesting brand activation there to be like really enrich people's engagement of this experience. Like, you not only ran this race and had this experience and you made it to the end or whatever that is, but now you also have this cool keepsake video that you could share on social media that you could tell your friends about. Like, you can see who you were running with at what parts, and like it turns into a whole deeper reason to engage with the brand, which I just thought was powerful.
Video releases could make a great ad cut.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, right. Yeah, you got to get the all signed releases, but it's a whole other thing. But hey, you compensate them a little bit. Hey, look, we're gonna, the first 10 people to do this, or you could even like cherry pick the ones that looked really nice or you thought were good.
And not that we're falling over.
Yeah. No, that's not the one. But maybe it is, right? Like that's the thing too. Like, humor sells so well these days, right? Like,
you're a marathon and different kinds of people running.
Like just that one person that's like barely making it every time, but you managed to be it. Like, you could create a funny narrative around that about determination and like at mile 10, you thought you looked like this. Like, this was not a good look. But even now, like, this was probably 10 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. So like, imagine the kind of cool things that could be developed where you're using an AI technology to scan the emotional responses of the faces, and then you can start stitching things together. Like all these people were on the struggle bus, and like all these people were. You can even, I mean, I don't know, just the crazy amount of ways you can
be used. By the way, is to like cut out that mundane work of someone sitting there being like, okay, numbers 5, 12, and 18 look tired.
Right.
And just be like, here's your batch of tired, here's your batch of excited, here's your batch of just like in it, as opposed to, making art. But that's beside the point.
I'm excited to see how these tools will empower people like ourselves to create things faster and in more exciting ways, where it takes out some of that grunt work that nobody wanted to do that. Like no one's excited to do that. Like that's great. Like let's have that data. I would cross-reference it. Someone's still got to double check it, but like let's get it like 80% of the way there. That's what I think about it.
Yeah.
And we had on one of our previous episodes, we were speaking with Ryan Summers, and like, we got this promise in this new data-driven marketing world that we were going to get better ads that are more relevant, and like it's all going to be great, and like you're going to love the ad. Like it just isn't happening yet. Like, and it's pissing me off. Like I'm watching, AMC the other day with my wife. We're streaming it through Amazon or some other parent streaming app where we buy the $5 ad on. But anyways, long story short, it's like, why am I watching the same 4 ads over and over and over and over and over again on this thing? Like it's not serving anybody. I didn't like and 3 of the 4 ads sucked, right? So it's like there was one ad that I thought was emotionally engaging. It was like Amazon's little kid ad, like where it's like, my house is magical and it's got colorful lights, and it was like this little girl telling a story, and this little porn like crushed it, right? Like great, I loved it the first time, second time was cool, third time I don't want to watch it again. Like I got it, right? Anyway, so
I also think that
that's
there's
my soapbox
thing with targeted ads that I have been noticing, and this is, I don't know, specifically on Meta at the very least, but like if it notices that I'm interested in something, for example, since we've had the puppies, and I've been Googling stuff about puppies, it's not just that, like, yeah, sure, I'm being served dog stuff, which is like good, honestly, like that's great targeted ads, right? Like I'm looking at stuff about puppies, but those are the only ads that I'm getting. So it's like it is the algorithm has forgotten that I have any other interests, only showing me ads about dog stuff. And I'm like, but all the other things that you were showing me like 2 weeks ago are still relevant to me. Like I still like fitness, I still like rock climbing, like, I still care about these other things, I still like books, and all I'm getting is dog stuff.
Ridiculous. Yeah, so that's very polarizing. Like, right, they're either like completely oblivious, just serving, and here's the thing, like I guess the thing is, like, they make more money when they serve the ad more times, right? So like the platform's got maybe the wrong incentivization somehow. Like I don't know how there's a capitalist fix to that. Like there's something in there where it's like, we need these to be more relevant to drive more ROI, so these people want to invest more money and we enjoy the ads more. But at the same time, like, you don't want to just see dog ads, right? Like that's not fun. Interesting. I had another thought on there, but it has escaped me.
It comes back.
Yeah. All right. So let's circle back. So creative content strategies. What does that really mean to you? Like if someone asks you, like, what to define a creative content strategy?
Okay, so I think content strategy and creative content strategy, creative to me is just the addition of something a little bit out of the box.
Okay.
A content strategy can be your white papers, your blogs, your ebooks. Videos aren't really innovative anymore, right? Like doing a little bit of video. But to me, creative content strategy is, and it doesn't have to be out of the box and that the medium is out of the box, right? Like I do think that like you can have a written piece of content that, because it's not in line with how the industry has operated in the past, or maybe it's like a little bit more irreverent, maybe it's a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, maybe it's a campaign like dogs again, but there's that dog brand that constantly makes like really dirty jokes, and like we'll send out stuff about like 69 and be like, oops, we didn't mean to do that, like
right.
Oh, but like it's so clear this is like part of their marketing strategy. Like things that just make you stop and make you go, I wasn't expecting that from X, Y, or Z type of brand. And I think that, like that can be cool things like interactive content, and that can be verbal, like campaigns or verbal written campaigns, not verbal, that are, again, like just like a little bit more out of the box and a little bit more unexpected.
Yeah. Okay. So for you, creative is just like pushing the needle a little bit, like trying, like not copying, well, this big successful company did that thing, so we're going to do that. And at best, we're going to have a second-rate idea because we're not going to copy someone better than they did it themselves. I don't think it works that way.
Not the same choice, I think, but often the more rewarding choice.
So let's talk about that. So that's probably a lot of businesses' fear of like, hey, I need to do this safe thing because of what if I do this risky thing and it damages our reputation or it does X, Y, Z. Yeah.
I mean, okay. I think that there are definitely some risks in talking about like the thing I was saying about the pet brand that like does like super irreverent, like dirty humor.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, if you're pushing creative whatever is just a little bit different, I don't think you're going to ruin your brand. And honestly, if your brand is so like square that doing something a little bit different is going to ruin the brand rep, then like maybe you need to rethink your branding.
Yeah. Great point, especially these days.
I think the biggest risk is just the ROI piece, at least for me. Because, you may do something that is different that you think is really cool and you think is going to perform really well and then doesn't resonate with your audience. And so, that's why I would start with smaller scale experimentation, right? Like you don't want to be like, this is our $500,000 project that's going to be our experiment, because you don't know how that's going to go. But if you can, maybe spend, depending on if you're, working with a big budget or a small budget, but like, a couple $100 or even like a couple tens of thousands if you're a bigger company, just to prove out that this is a approach that's going to be successful, then you can start to scale that up and start to do more things that are in that vein.
So if you're working on like an A/B split test, right? Like let's say you want 2 or 3, like we think these are safe, and let's throw this wild card out there, right? And let's measure it all. Let's do them all to the best of our ability within the confines of this idea and see which one performs the best, right? Like that's the strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I hate to say, in tech, a lot of times the safe ones outperform the creative ones, which sucks. And it sucks to see that. But at least, again, you didn't spend a fuckload of money. And then you can be like, all right, well, knowing that this is sort of the thing that's resonating, what other creative ways can we like appeal to this audience? Because clearly this thing that would work on me isn't working on them.
Right. Yeah. Every audience is different, right? So you really have to get in the weeds of the industry. And it's, we have the way I talk about it's very scientific, right? It's like, hey, look, we're going to approach this like any good science, right? We have ideas. We're going to do a little research, pay attention, take some observations, produce a hypothesis, right? From that, we're going to experiment with these iterations of creative. We're then going to measure all the information and then build upon that, right? Like, oh, okay, well, this worked here, that didn't work here. We think these worked for these reasons. We don't really know until we try to repeat the things, right? So that's where this all goes. And if you keep investing and repeating and analyzing and going through that circle, what was that?
That's why you need data.
Data, yeah. Data is everything for sure.
It drives me so crazy when I work with clients and I like give them ideas and then I'm like, okay, like how do these perform? And they're like, good. And I'm like, okay, but like what were the numbers? Like how do they compare to the other stuff? They're like, oh, we don't know. I'm like, well, then we don't know that they actually performed well because they were the way that they were, or if it was just the time of year, or like there's nothing to go off of to keep iterating and moving forward.
But it felt good, and like this lady called and said she liked our ad, so it was great. Like,
I mean, okay, I love anecdotal responses because it's nice to hear, but I hate using them as proof points because it's like this means nothing.
Yeah, there's so much of that, and we talk about that a lot now as well. Within my brand, but it's like it really doesn't matter what everyone feels. You really have to go like, what's pushing the needle? Like, what is actually driving? Like, those creative ideas in the tech companies, like they might have bona fide been the best form of the visual way to do this and to put this idea together in the way. But if it's not working, then it doesn't really matter. Like, oh, that's great, but this audience, the market makes the rules, right? Like, and that's always changing and evolving, right? Like, so You have to look at
it was a bad idea. It doesn't
Right.
mean that the cool creative thing you came up with isn't cool and creative. It just means it's not working for that audience.
Yeah. And so understanding the goal and then what is success and then just trying to get there all the different ways you can. And having those things thwart your creativity is the hard part, right? Like you want to still remain passionate because you might have had 2 outlier ideas, but if you keep pushing and keep evolving, you can stack on the other things and go, all right, well, this didn't work this way, but I think it was because of this little piece. Let's try it that way, apply it onto this over here, and boom. And you might get like a 10x winner. Like, who knows, you know?
You can't get discouraged because everyone's going to respond differently. Every audience is going to respond differently. And there can't be ego attached to it because it could work with a different audience, right? You could transpose that same idea to a different client. And then that style or that kind of like whatever of the campaign super resonates and it's complete winner, and it just didn't work for, the CPAs over here, whatever it was.
the other market. Man, the CPAs catch all the shit. CPAs and lawyers, like, I can't tell you how many conversations have been on with creatives. Like, yeah, we're not going to work with a bunch of number crunchers and people enforcing the law. Like, it's just it's funny. But yeah, those people are often creative as well. They just have different methodologies and expressions of their creativity, right? But it's easy to point at the people in the suits every day at work.
Yeah, well, I think also the fields like that tend to have an older demographic, and the older demographics tend to be like a little less responsive to more innovative type platforms and marketing, just because they're like, I worked at a company that did telco security solutions, and they found direct mailers were like working really well because they were like boomer plus age range. These people in these, like, I guess maybe now it would be boomer, but regardless, like these people in these high level positions didn't grow up with the internet. Right. They didn't have, any kind of Meta, any kind of TikTok, any kind of whatever. They barely Google searched. I'm sure, okay, that's not fair. I'm sure they knew how to Google search, but just like that demographic was like, yeah, direct mailer. They will go to their mailbox. They will read their mail. That's going to be what gets them.
100%, and knowing your demographic is that. So like politics is still heavily like that. My wife works a lot in politics, and mailers are a huge part of every campaign. Like they always are. They're still deeply ingrained in that. And that's how a lot of people still get, especially, the generations that like actually vote right now. Now, I think millennials have been stepping up this past couple election cycles and like actually showing up to vote. Now that we're the older, like geriatric millennials like me are very we're getting a little long in the tooth. So we're real adults and co-vote. I've always voted, but yeah. Anyways, that's definitely true. I like that. So also these other professions that we brought up, not to, because I want to redeem myself a little bit for harping on lawyers and CPAs, but they are by nature in their professions more risk adverse, right? Like, so these more off the cuff things feel just risky in general, right? So like there may be something to that as well in the psychology of how they consume things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who knows? Hey, we just need data. We just test it with some creative.
Well, you can't look at an open rate of a direct mailer, so.
This is true, but isn't it 100%, right? Like, unless people aren't checking their mail, I
got to my table that's just piled high with all the mail that I have not opened.
But eventually, you grow through that stack because any one of those could be important. So you will pick everyone up and go, trash. Trash.
I don't always open them. Sometimes I just know from looking at the envelope that that
is trash. Oh, fair. Yeah. So they're delivered for sure. Delivery rate, probably 100%. Maybe not. Anyways, yeah, that's all exciting. So, all right, let's see. What else can we jump in on here for another 5 or so minutes here? Let's see. So, is there a strategy that, so you mentioned the Lego one, so maybe not something you've worked on, but what's your favorite one that you've seen that just comes to top of mind other than that Lego one that was just like, this was a great idea?
Let me think about it for a second, because I feel like there've been a lot recently, and of course, now that you're asking me it, my brain is going
sure. Don't ask me the same question.
I know. I'm gonna be so real with you. All I can think about is Lego, that puppy care brand that I talked about, which I'm gonna have to find. If you've never seen it, I'm gonna have to send it to you.
Yeah, please.
Those are truly the only two that come to mind right now, which is so silly because I've turned to Ben a million times in the last couple of weeks and been like, that's such a great marketing strategy. That's such a great brand strategy. And they're just, not in my head anymore. It is the ADHD.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a double-edged sword for sure. ADHD it's a fun ride. I've enjoyed it all 39 years I've been here. So
yeah. I will probably think of one after we get off this call and then text.
Like, DMV car. We should have talked about that. All good. All right. So let's go into our little wrap question here and see if that helps stimulate some more ideas. But so we're coming up on time, but like we were chatting a little bit beforehand. But what do you think is a very valuable resource? Anything in your career or maybe some content people that you follow that people should check out that you think that would really help, especially in the world of marketing? So.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so when it comes to like marketing and like freelance content, Superpath is a Slack community. They also have a website. They post jobs, they post like content tips. It's somewhere where you can kind of like engage with other freelance creatives, content people, writers, video producers, etc. But I also want to say, which is not necessarily a resource, but is a product, which if you are a content marketer and you can get buy-in at your company, I think you should absolutely use, is Seros. It is super, super cool. It's a no-code interactive design platform, which every company that I have ever been to, that's like one of the first things that I do is I'm like, can we please get a Seros license? Because it's going to allow us to make so much more cool content without needing to involve the web team and like involve devs. Because a designer can go in, they can make, quizzes. That's how we did the Choose Your Own Adventure. Super, super, super cool. There's a small learning curve for designers, but like very much worth it. And you can even do like ebooks as like a web page where like you click into things and they pop out and you embed videos. So that's something else that I want to shout out because I adore them. And there probably are other platforms that do that too. I'm not saying only Seros, but like that's one I've had the most success with.
That sounds awesome. How do you spell that?
Ceros.
Ceros. Awesome. Now I'm excited about that. Let's check that out.
Yeah, you should definitely check them out. I like them a lot.
Very cool. All right. Cool. Well, big shout out just to meeting you in the gaming community. And this has been exciting, getting to know each other. And again, thank you for being on the podcast here, Katie. So we've been talking with Katie DeMatteis. Nailed it? Yeah, got it?
Close enough.
DeMatteis. DeMatteis.
It's very close, though. It was
DeMatteis.
fudge. I'm
going to get this. All right. Who is a content marketing leader. You can check out her website at Katie, Katie DeMatteis, DeMatteis.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, where should they go?
I mean, if they want to check out my social media, which is not super content marketing focused, it's Katie, Katie, Mehra, Mehera, on pretty much every platform.
Okay, awesome.
And my website is mostly my portfolio, so there's not going to be a ton there other than if you want to read some of the stuff that I've written, which is pretty cool.
Definitely. I can attest that you are indeed a good writer. So, all right, Katie, thanks so much for being on our show. And until next time, friends, we'll see you.
Thank you so much.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.